All right, so when it becomes 7 o'clock, you're able to start because you're recording and streaming.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 7 p.m. We'll call to order this meeting of the Town Council. And I note that all 5 members are present. Councilors Golembeski, Mataronis, McHugh, Moore, and Mushin. The first item of business is approval of the minutes of July 8th.
Motion to approve the July 2021 Town Council meetings as written, unless anybody has any questions or comments on them.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Golembeski. Any discussion? I'll ask for a show of hands of those in favor of the motion. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The next item is announcements. The first announcement is that the report on the end of fiscal year actions will be delayed until our August 5th meeting. We've had a number of items that have taken precedence over that, and we're working those numbers, and we'll bring that forward to you so that you can determine which things we propose to, which funds we propose to encumber and which funds we propose to move to other funds. The second announcement is this is for the Town Council, the last virtual meeting. Our next meeting will be an in-person meeting, regardless of when it happens to be scheduled, because come Saturday, that is day after tomorrow, the allowance for deviation from the Open Meetings Act will expire. The governor does not intend and has not renewed that. Therefore, all meetings of councils, committees, boards, and commissions will be in person. There is not a requirement that they be interactive with the public remotely. We are working that so as to be ready to do that when the time comes. But you can expect that the council meeting, the first council meeting in August, will be in person in the council chambers, and the council chambers will be open for participation by the public. The third item to announce is our municipal resilience grant has been granted by the Infrastructure Bank. So that represents a substantial sum of money that we intend to use for Townway and for John Dyer Road and for South Shore Beach water mitigation and municipal resilience. Are there any other announcements? All right, our department head reports are before us. We've received 4. That's from the fire department, public works, the assessor, and the administrator.
Motion to place all department head reports on file, unless anybody has any questions or comments on those.
I'll second that as well.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Golembeski. Are there to place on file? Are there in fact any questions or any report that someone would like some explanation for? Hearing none, I'll ask for a show of hands of those in favor of that motion to place it on file, noting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands. All are in favor. Thank you. Next item is old business, and it's discussion and consideration of the potential proposal for extension of Special Directive 5, which is our declaration of emergency. I would solicit a motion to approve the 12th edition of that special directive.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Mataronis, second by Golembeski. Any discussion? I'll ask for a show of hands of those in favor of that motion. Seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands, all are in favor of the motion. Thank you. The second item of old business is a status report from the police chief on South Shore Road Safety Plan implementation.
You're on mute still, chief.
How's that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just for a quick background, obviously back in March, we received that letter from one of our second graders, Coco Smith, in regards to safety issues that there might be on South Shore Road leading down to the beach, some pedestrian safety issues and speeding, etc. So prior to putting in a safety plan, I wanted to get some baseline numbers in regards to the amount of vehicles and speeds we're talking about on South Shore Road. So we have the variable message board, which is the large electronic message board that we used a lot during COVID to get messages out to the town. I'm not sure everyone's aware, but that also tracks speed of vehicles and the count of vehicles that go by it. It doesn't display any speed, but it does take statistics for us. Some of those being the number of vehicles, the average speed of those vehicles. It also puts together a 50th and an 85th percentile of speed. And one of the other good numbers is it determines sign effectiveness. It'll grab a speed from a vehicle, and if that vehicle immediately begins to slow down, it considers the sign effective, quote unquote. So originally I put down a message on the signboard back in May that said, you know, beach opening soon, wear your seatbelt, etc. I didn't want to put anything that delineated that we were collecting speed or that we were in the area trying to have some traffic enforcement. So originally, I'll read through some quick numbers. 11,201 cars went through in a 10-day period that we had in May.
Wow.
It's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. 10% of those vehicles were speeding. That's the number we came up with. The average speed is 27.9 miles an hour. So it's just under 3 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, which I think is pretty good. The sign effectiveness was right under 30%. So, you know, almost 1 in 3 of the people driving by the sign begin to slow down when they read the sign. We also determined some peak hours, which I'm not going to tell you what the hours are because I have a plan going forward after this. But 2 times during the day were where most of our vehicles and most of the percentage of violations occurred. So again, 10% of the vehicles are speeding, and it's only 27.9% is the average speed. So then I took those numbers. I think those are excellent numbers, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, when you're only going 2 miles over the speed limit, you're looking at 11,000 plus cars. That seems to me, quote unquote, a fairly safe road. Now that's only speed that doesn't take into consideration distracted driving, people using their cell phones and other devices that may take their attention away from operating a vehicle. So I sat down with some of the members of the department, and we put together our Safe Summer Initiative. All right, that took into consideration a lot of the streets leading down to South Shore Beach. So South Shore Road, Brownell, Maple, Long Highway, Shaw, Swamp, Long Pasture, Grange, and we also were doing Secana Point Road down towards Lloyd's Beach and the area in that part of town. We assigned 3 what we call TEPs, traffic enforcement posts, on each day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 in the early evening. The days varied. Some days there weren't any posts. Some days there were 2 posts. Some days there were 3 posts. The hours varied throughout the day. We didn't want to develop any kind of pattern that people might notice. Those 1-hour periods were recorded through our records management system. I just want to also note that we didn't utilize any departmental overtime for this. We did utilize some of our Blue Riptide grant money that we'd already had. So we did not dip into any overtime, which is also a good thing. And also of note, and this has come up in the news as of late, we do not and did not have any quota on citations and or vehicles to be stopped during those TEPs. I just want to make that perfectly clear to everyone. Part of the plan was we also deployed the speed trailer, which is a smaller version of the radar that displays speed. We changed the message on the variable message board to intensive traffic enforcement area. Beaches open, arrive safely, something to that effect. And we also went on our social media accounts and we posted about the Safe Summer Initiative, and we let people know that we would be in the area and we would be, enforcing the traffic laws. So that being said, we let that go on, and then we did another 10-day period survey in June. 17,700 cars in that 10-day period. So the summer picks up. And we did actually, I thought it might be a little more, but I think the weather that didn't really cooperate kept those numbers down. The 2 peak periods that I noticed in the first collection of data were right on. They were still our peak periods. The percentage of violators went down 7.4%. So we almost 3%. The percentage of violations went down. The speed dropped to 27.3 miles per hour, and the sign effectiveness went up to 33%. So 1 in 3 cars slowed down when they saw the sign. So at that point, I can say that the number of cars went up and we were more effective. It's a small percentage that it went down, but we were starting with a small percentage of those who were speeding beforehand anyway. So at that point, we're looking at it as being effective. We continued the detail, and then into June, we did a 7-day period, which led up to right up till this morning. Again, the peak periods were those two periods that I've identified were where we saw the majority of violations. The violations did rise. They went up to 8.4%. Still a good number, still less than the original 10%. And it was our car numbers went down as well to 13,000. Sign effectiveness dropped down to 31%. So even though the numbers went back up, they're still under the original 10% numbers. I think that comes from people noticing the sign and realizing they're getting used to the sign. They're getting used to seeing us out there. And during those certain times of the day, those 2 peak periods, there were more cars coming through. So I think overall, the entire initiative has been successful. We're going to move forward with the initiative the remainder of July and into August towards Labor Day, where we're going to concentrate more on those peak hours. We're going to be more visible in marked cruisers so we can try to cut down on the distracted driving. Obviously, people aren't going to use their cell phones when they see a police car on the side of the road. So overall, I thought it was very effective. Kudos to all the officers, and specifically Officer Ryan Leclerc, who handles all the variable message board messages and collected all the data for us. They did a great job out there. Sometimes they were out there in the rain. And, I told them it was weather dependent, but they still wanted to be out there to kind of wave the flag and let everybody know that we were doing what we were asked. So if anyone has any questions, I can certainly answer those for everyone.
I think that was a very comprehensive report, Chief. Very, very good report. Thank you.
Thank you. It's pretty easy with the machine that we have. It gives us the statistics, and we can take. I took, like I said, I ended the statistics this morning. So going into next week, I'm going to compare those numbers and those times where there are a lot of violations to where we were and if we were on those patrols, and we'll move things around and try to compare those numbers. And I really think that 7-8% of the people speeding or over the speed limit are excellent numbers. I think that's a very safe road, and kudos again to all the officers for being out there during these times.
Thank you.
Chief, you said that you were surprised by the numbers. You thought they were a little low and you thought it might be weather. What do you think the numbers might realistically have been if it was a nice weather? I
thought the percentage or the number of cars was going to be a little higher. Obviously, with COVID last year, I think the cat's out of the bag on Little Compton, so to speak. The beaches are beautiful, and everybody wanted to come down. And I thought our numbers for beachgoers would be higher, but the weather, Memorial Day, 4th of July, it was all rain. So those peak 3-day holiday weekends probably didn't get as many cars as they normally would.
Thank you, Chief. Great job.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the work you guys are doing to make our streets safe. I think another thing on top of the signage that you guys have put out and the patrolling that you've done, I think people generally drive slower when there are more obstacles in the road. So there are much more walkers and bikers out there, but all it takes is one bad guy that's out there speeding and being distracted to hit someone. And I'm glad that we're trying to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we're out there, we'll kind of, as I call it, waving the flag and letting everybody see the cars and they know we're out there, but we can't be out there all the time. And unfortunately there's that one time that someone's using their phone and, there's a group of people walking down the street and knock on wood, I hope we avoid things of that nature, but, we're doing our best. And I really think that area leading down to South Shore Road and Secana Point Road as well is becoming much safer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and to all those that made it possible for such a comprehensive report. All right, the next item of business is to officially designate Councilor Patrick McHugh as liaison to the Conservation Commission and to the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust. Councilor McHugh has also asked that we consider adding to our list of assignments an assignment as liaison to the Recreation Committee, a position that he would seek to fill based on his recent chairmanship of that committee. So the question before you, and I'd solicit a motion, is to designate Councilor McHugh as liaison to Conservation Commission, Agricultural Conservancy Trust, and Recreation Committee.
So move.
Want to second it, Andrew?
Yeah, second. Thank you.
Motion made by Councilor Mataronis, second by Councilor Moore. Is there discussion? Councilor McHugh, anything that you'd like to say?
No, thank you very much. It's important for the continuity and transition of the rec committee going forward. So I appreciate the help in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Might I ask, in conjunction with this, are you still going to stay coordinating the fields with David McGregor?
I would more than happy to do that.
And it's up to you if you're still willing. Then not most people know that it's you or Dave, so it would keep things flowing a little bit better if you do stay there.
I actually got 2 calls and an email today about that, so I'm more than happy to do it.
That then is the motion. Is there, are you ready to vote? We'll ask for a show of hands of those in favor of the motion appointing Councilor McHugh to those positions, noting 1, 2, 3, 4. And Councilor, would you raise your hand?
You can vote for yourself, Pat.
For yourself. 5. Thank you. And thanks for being willing to do it.
Thank you.
The next item of business is to receive and act on a recommendation from the town clerk with regard to hiring an individual to fill the vacancy of office clerk in her office, which will become vacant as of August 1st with the retirement of the current deputy clerk, Sheila Oliver.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Well, for the record, I think we should state what it is.
Right. We don't have we are receiving and acting on a recommendation, but the recommendation that's before you does not contain data that allows us to agree to something.
My recommendation, as some of you have in print, because I wrote it up this afternoon, but it should be accepted this evening, would be to offer employment to Rebecca Enright to fill that vacancy that will be coming available as of August 1st. I'd also like, if for some reason Mrs. Enright chooses to decline, for the ability to offer to Rebecca Miranda the same offer of employment.
Carol, there's one question I had, and it's completely up to you. But if Rebecca Enright goes in and maybe after a couple of weeks, she feels that the job doesn't fit her, would you want us to allow you to go forth with Mrs. Enright as with Miss Miranda as a secondary, so you don't have to come back to the council?
Well, that I would like for you to put that in the vote. That way, if for some reason something comes up and either Mrs. Enright chooses not to take the offer, or as you said, a couple of weeks in, something comes up and she needs to step down. That way I have the ability to immediately offer the employment to our second choice.
Because that gives you a little bit more leeway. So I'll make that addition to the motion if we allow, if the first offer employment, Rebecca Enright doesn't feel the job fits her right, and after a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, we allow the town clerk to offer the job to Rebecca Miranda. That way you want to come back to the town council.
I'll amend my second to include all that.
Thank you.
So the motion is made and seconded to offer to Rebecca Enright, and then subject to the conditions we described, subsequently potentially offer to Rebecca Miranda the position of clerk in the town clerk's office. And what would that hire date be, Carol? Do you have a specific date in mind, or?
Well, I would have to offer it to them for beginning August 1st, but both of them have jobs currently. So they would need to give notice, whichever one accepts it, give notice to their employer. So the actual effective date of hire will be 2-3 weeks out.
Very good. Very good. All right, then. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I'll ask for a show of hands of those in favor of the motion. Noting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all are voting in favor. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work on that. The next item of business is new business. It's a request from Barbara Roach on behalf of the Village Improvement Society to use Veterans Field on May 14th, 2022 and August 6th, 2022. And
Motion.
that's for the annual chicken barbecue.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Moore to approve the request. Any discussion? A show of hands of those in favor of the motion, noting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all hands are in favor. The motion carries 5-0. The next item of new business is the potential new hire of a firefighter, that firefighter who was interviewed by the council, Matthew Pierce, and to act on a recommendation of the fire chief and the results of the interview.
Motion to offer the employment to Matthew Pierce.
Second.
Motion made by Golembeski, second by Mataronis. Any discussion? Chief Petron, any comment from you on
No, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Also,
I'll ask for a show of hands for that motion, noting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands. All are voting in favor, a unanimous offer. Congratulations to candidate Matthew Pearson. When would he start at the Fire Academy, or would he come work for us first, the way that?
I would think that we would have him in the station for maybe 2 weeks prior to the academy starting. The academy tentative date, I believe, is the 30th of August. Not 100% sure, but that's what we're looking at.
Thank you. Very good. The next item of business is one with the council sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. It's a request from Gnome Surf, easy for you to say. A request from Gnome Surf for a Class F one-day beverage license.
Motion to approve with all town and local ordinance adhered to.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Golembeski. Any discussion? A show of hands of those approving that motion, noting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all are in favor. Thank you. The next item of business is communications. It's a copy of an electronic communication sent from resident Breffney McGuire to that town administrator and copied to the council, wondering if the town will investigate community electricity aggregation option to choose from whom you purchase electrical supplies. I note that the person submitting this is not present with us, but I have had a discussion with the administrator regarding our knowledge of other towns that have undertaken this. He and I will be speaking with Tiverton and Portsmouth, who are both at least considering it, to see what our next step might be. It's, I will say frankly, it's a challenge to us to both offer this option when it's an opt-out sort of option. So we have to get the word out to people that we're going to do something with their electricity, and they need to opt out if they don't want that. So I'm reluctant to simply say, sure, let's go ahead and try it. The other reality is we have with the League of Cities and Towns, a electricity consortium that it may interact or interfere with. I'll say it that way. That said, some of the towns that have already undertaken to look at it are in the same situation. So I don't think that's a deal breaker. It's just another of the things we need to research to understand what the puts and takes are with this proposal. Any other comment or question?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment. I've had opportunity to speak with members of other communities who have either enrolled in it or are currently looking to enroll in community choice aggregation. I know South Kingstown, Providence, Barrington, they're already enrolled. They're currently using this practice, and I've spoken to members of a group in Newport that was tasked by the council in Newport to investigate this, and they've already put forward an application, and they've been going through the process to move forward with this. It could, one of the main benefits is it could bring in some income for the town. Some towns and communities choose to put that money back into the ratepayers themselves, so that the folks that live in the community, or they've used it to they put it toward infrastructure needs in the community. There are a lot of different options. I just think it's worth looking into it.
Okay.
Just to see if it might work for our community or not, and possibly see if there are some benefits that we could take from it.
Great. Perhaps you could talk with the administrator about how these other towns are handling the process of investigation, and we may be able to learn something from that could be useful to us. If there, for example, if Newport or Barrington had a particular approach to this that they took that might benefit us to consider, that would be useful.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion on that matter? The next item of business is a copy of a draft flag protocol as presented in a first read during the Wilbur McMahon School Committee meeting this month by the chair, Polly Allen. In the forwarding email, references made to our interest in establishing a flag policy. And as you're aware, based on the vote taken in conjunction with the flying of the pride flag last month, we specified that we were going to move forward with a town policy, specifically with respect to flags that are not the U.S. flag. Basically, the U.S. flag is flown in accordance with Title IV of U.S. Code, Chapter 1, and half staffing and those sorts of things are laid out quite carefully there. And our intention would be to write a document which applies to all town buildings with respect to the display of the American flag, and then also address any other flag that might be flown at a I'll call it intermittent time. But for right now, we're adhering to U.S. Code, which flies the American flag at half staff on the order of the president or on the order of the governor of the state. And so that's the process by which we're operating. But we will be back to you with that proposal, the administrator and I, based upon the discussion that was had at the last, at that meeting I referenced. Any questions there?
Yeah, I have just a few questions. I don't know if this is semantics or not, but I think what we do here is ordinances, not policies. Is that correct? I would anticipate we would write an ordinance for the town, yes. Right, okay, so the school committee will do a policy. We'll do an ordinance. I'm interested in the vote that was taken last month and the words that were in the minutes. Do you have that, Carol? Or is that something you can get to?
I can send it to you. Yes.
Can you read it?
Oh, let me see. I might.
My question is, and just from understanding, Bob, is that we're following the code, the president and the governor of the state, and how we do our flags. And this body voted last month, and Carol will bring it up, that, if I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me and I apologize, that no flags will be flown until there is a ordinance made by this committee, by this council. Am I right in saying that?
Well, no flags other than the US flag.
Right. Right.
I'll read for you the vote if you'd like.
Yes.
It's to approve a request to fly the pride flag on June 12th, 2021, in conjunction with the coming out party to be held at the Little Compton Community Center, and to further note that no flag other than the American flag will be flown on the town hall until a set of guidelines can be approved to set a policy for flying of flags on town property.
And I think what you said, Bob, is yourself, the administrator, are going to craft an ordinance that's going to come before this council?
That's my intention. I'm happy to have someone else take my place in that regard, but I am interested in the issue, and as is the administrator, who has some experience in Bristol with their policy. So I'm hopeful that we can exploit that. But yes, we would return to the council with a draft ordinance, and that draft ordinance then would be subject to the process by which ordinances are approved, which includes, of course, a public hearing. So unless this ends up in the zoning ordinance, which I don't believe it will, then it would be initiated by the town council.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Bob.
Sure. The only remaining item then is the payment of bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion is made by Mataronis, second by Golembeski, to pay the bills as laid out in your enclosure. Any discussion? I'll ask for a show of hands of those in favor of that motion, noting 5 hands. The motion carries 5-0. There being no other items of business before us, I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
See you in person next time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are we gonna wear shorts at the next meeting?
That's optional. Not